Matteo McCacci, the president of the International Campaign for Tibet, has stated that, quote, the Chinese leadership is seeking to enforce complete isolation on Tibet, often described as being worse than in North Korea, where at least some foreign media are based. Independent international observers are shut out of Tibet and allowed to visit only under strictly controlled circumstances. In order to prevent documentation of the religious freedom restrictions and other human rights abuses to the outside world, the government of China has severely limited access by foreign nationals to the Tibetan regions.
The Reciprocal Access to Tibet Act is about fairness, human rights, and careful U.S. diplomacy at its core. For too long, China has restricted access to Tibet, prevented U.S. diplomats and journalists from observing human rights abuses in Tibet, and preventing Tibetan Americans from visiting their home country.
For Tibetans, restricted access to the region leaves them in virtual isolation from the rest of the world, while also precluding international witnesses to the Chinese government's continuous violations of the Tibetans' human rights. The State Department and many independent international human rights organizations have raised concerns about arbitrary arrest and imprisonment, torture and ill treatment, heightened surveillance, and religious and cultural restrictions in Tibet.
Until we push back against Beijing's double standards, they will continue to bully us and their neighbors, and H.R. 1872 pushes back.
There are many Tibetan Americans throughout the United States whose family members still reside within Tibet, and they are watching closely for signs that the United States is willing to help, willing to allow them to return to visit their families, and hoping fervently for a solution to the pain and suffering in Tibet and with the diaspora that has been experienced by generations.
That's why today's legislation is so important. It lays out criteria to draw up a list of Chinese officials and prohibits these officials from obtaining a U.S. visa until we have similar access to Tibet.
I strongly support this bill, and I hope that given its broad bipartisan support, it will be brought to the floor when we return from the August recess.
I'm pleased that we're finally acting on this. It's been a long time coming, but today is a good day to be moving forward. It's an important step.
Reporting quorum being present, the question is on the motion to report the bill H.R. 1872 as amended favorably to the House. Those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is ordered reported favorably.